individuals who are in their cabinet. And so what I'd like to do is if I can ask our city engineer to come forward, Mr. Moore, and this is all part of item 1. So why don't we formalize this? Why don't we read into the record item 1,
Okay.
Then I'll be asking planning to come forward too. But go ahead.
Good afternoon, Councilman Rafael Cile's office. Item number 1, BOE and Planning Department status report relative to the LA River related projects, establishment of the LA River Special Projects Office, and implementation of the LA River Revitalization Master Plan.
And in the context of river-related projects, since I'm very careful with the Brown Act, we had some significant folks who were here today that could have a tremendous impact on how we move forward with the river. And I'd like to ask first, I want to thank you, Mr. Moore. I think your staff, Dr. Armstrong, you, and planning, everyone did a great job in getting us ready for this important visit. And I'm glad you were to join them on the helicopter because I think they needed to understand the bigger picture. And I appreciate all your hard work. If you could just share with us who was here and what actually happened.
Sure. Good afternoon, Gary Moore, City Engineer. First of all, Councilman Reyes, what you started and continue to lead, I was telling people on Thursday had to be the highlight of my involvement over the past 7 or 8 years on the Los Angeles River revitalization. It was still kind of humbled by, I feel, the progress, another step in the progress of this great revitalization. And so your leadership on this has been just key, and it was a very exciting time starting last Wednesday when the Lisa Jackson, the administrator for the EPA, announced that the Los Angeles River is indeed a navigable water.
Right.
And so I think that's very good and very clear. And I know that we've been working, we have a great partner with the Army Corps, and this really helps us in our continued revitalization.
And there was an editorial on what that means, correct? In the LA Times, I believe that day, or the following day.
Right. There, and I guess I know there was an article in the paper about it. I didn't see the opinion piece. I didn't get a chance. I only got to read the article on
and
it.
I think for the listening public and for those in the audience, what this designation does. Can you just give us a Reader's Digest version of what it means?
Sure. I think
And now you're dancing.
Yeah. No. It really, what it does is assures the community that local waters are protected by the nation's water laws. I think that's really a succinct answer. And what that means is it really opens us up the issue of upstream development and also the revitalization, bringing the full weight of many different departments to help us aid in the revitalization, I think is really the key victory that happened for us. And you know, making this that it is possible to canoe in the river, that it's possible, that it's fishable, that it's navigable water of the U.S. is key. And maybe Carol wants to add
Well, the key here is that they've called it a traditionally navigable waterway. And so not only do we get enhanced Clean Water Act protection, but we also do get that endorsement that it is as valuable a national resource as other rivers across the country in terms of fishable, boatable, swimmable, as Gary indicated.
Like the Mississippi.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I'm exaggerating.
but the recognition at this time by Administrator Jackson is really a wonderful thing.
But I think also key is the watershed regional area impacts and how we protect tributaries and how we protect those water bodies that have a role in the infrastructure of how the water flows.
Absolutely.
And how we protect those areas as well from overdevelopment, I think is just as key.
And I guess, it's great to hear on a national level what we know on a local level, that this is a great resource.
Right.
And it just validates so much of the work that everybody in this room and everybody listening and as everybody's worked so hard on, and it just really solidified and what we all know as this important use that the river provides, the Los Angeles River provides for this, 10 million people, 4 million people in the city of Los Angeles.
Could you speak to the objective of why they were here? And can you name the different secretaries that were here?
Sure. President Obama has established a program or an outreach of America Great Outdoors. And I know that it started in Washington, and I believe they've had a listening session in Wyoming, if I remember right. And now they came to Los Angeles. And here in Los Angeles, we were represented, the federal government was represented by Lisa Jackson, the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, Ken Salazar, the Secretary of the Interior. We had Nancy Sutley from the Council of Environmental Quality. And
Chair, right?
Yes, the chair of that. We had Harris
Sherman
from the United States Department of Agriculture.
Sherman Harris.
And
Joellen Darcy.
And Joellen Darcy, the Assistant Secretary for the Army Corps.
Right.
Along with that, we also had the Region 9 Administrator, Jared Blumenfeld, also with us. And we also had the Undersecretary of Interior, Will
Shafroth.
Thank you, Carol. It's great with the names. And except those people I had just mentioned, unfortunately, as Interior Secretary Salazar was in San Francisco that morning. The others were able to join on a helicopter tour. And I want to thank the Los Angeles Fire Department and the teamwork that they provided in giving that helicopter for us to use. And what was great about it is that we understand that although only 32 miles of the river is in Los Angeles, we understand the value of restoring the entire 51 miles. And it was important for us, and that we were able to start here in downtown, fly off of Piper Tech, and go 32 miles north and west out to Canoga Park, where we, I don't know if you can do it in a helicopter, but we did it. We pulled a U-turn at the Arroyo Calabasas and Bell Creek, the beginning of the Los Angeles River, and we then proceeded to fly all the ways down to Long Beach, the entire 51 miles. And I think I was struck by, I think it was either Joellen Darcy, or actually it was Joellen Darcy, the Assistant Secretary for Civil Works, saying, I'm used to back east where the rivers are not so channelized as we have here. But what she also got to see, and what they noted, and everybody noted, was what a dense region we live in. And you can see the lack of green space on either side of the river. And it was really Harris
Sherman from USDA.
Yeah, Harris Sherman. I wanted to mix up Will's last name with Harris Sherman's from the Department of Agriculture, noted, he said this would have taken us months to cover what we did in an hour and 20 minutes. And so they had a true appreciation for the possibilities and, the city working together with the county and with our other nonprofit agencies. We have been doing things on this river. And so we were able to show what we've done, able to show where we're going. And I think, as you can hopefully tell, it was just uplifting. Right after that, they did a meeting at Vista Hermosa Park. And Councilman Reyes, I know your leadership made that park happen. And so I want to acknowledge you. And it was amazing. There was no doubt you were going to talk about the river. But it was great to hear every federal official,
Congressman Roybal Allard,
and Congressmember Roybal Allard also talking about the Los Angeles River and the amenity. And then in the afternoon at the America Great Outdoors at the panel, once again, Mayor Villaraigosa, the first thing he talked about was the Los Angeles River. And then to hear these these representatives from our federal government again mention and talk about the Los Angeles River. And then we all went to breakout sessions as part of that, and to once again be able to carry the message about the importance and hear back from other people in the audience. There was one woman in my session, she says, she was from Lancaster, she goes, I wish we had a Los Angeles River in Lancaster to rally around. So, I mean, the word is out there. I mean, and so it was just such a...
And we had one of the greatest cheerleaders of Los Angeles that evening bring up the Los Angeles River. We've been joined by Councilmember Tom LeBons. Welcome, Tom.
And I want to also acknowledge Councilman LeBons at that evening at the reception, bringing home and the importance of the Los Angeles River, and then also I want to
And with a certificate.
Yes. And then on Friday, after he completed his civic duty on jury duty, he came over and met with the Assistant Secretary, Joellen Darcy, again, and once again, the importance of the Los Angeles River revitalization, and gave her a very memorable tour of both City Hall and making sure she saw the river from up on the observation deck.
And thank you, our city engineer. I wanted to make sure this was on the record because I know we've been plugging away, having these meetings and putting together different pieces, and it's a huge puzzle that we're trying to fit here. But one of the defining measures will be the level of participation by the federal government to bring in resources that helps us create these bridges within not only the jurisdictions, but within the federal agencies themselves. And to have them all here listening to one city speak about these concerns sends a very strong message to them that we have a focus and that we have a political will to make a difference. But not only that, create an opportunity for our president to actually start creating jobs here sooner than they think, if we can get all on the same page. So all this work these past 7 years begins to show itself and how we can point to these opportunities and these advantages, given all the hard work from the city family.
One more thanks again to Nancy Sutley and President Obama's administration. She was a great supporter here as deputy mayor, and now at the federal level. Nancy was a tremendous leader also, along with both of you. Thank you.
But it begs the question, the role of the federal government when we talk about flood management in geographic areas that may be extended by the Corps. That's something that's very possible within the feasibility study, right?
I think absolutely. And one of the things that I was talking to Undersecretary Will Schaffroth about in our master plan.
Twice, Gary.
I know. I know. Third time's a charm.
Yeah, let me your pen here.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to write. It's great to have Carol on your team. Is one of the things that we were talking about in our master plan. We laid out 240 projects, and we talked about whose congressional district it was in, whose council district it was in, whose state senate, state assembly's district. And what he challenged us to do is to take those projects and look at the funding from the different agencies and where we can go. I think so. It kind of ties into the feasibility study and looking at opportunities here to build on this visit here, right, and reaching out for the different funding opportunities.
Right. And Tom, just so that we can put in perspective, the progress shows itself when we have the Word bill out there with $25 million that's dedicated to this effort. We have an account. It's $100,000 that's been allocated. Now, the amount isn't a lot. It's the mechanics of that. Now we have an actual account we could put money into. So all the reasons why, I'll put it this way, all the variables that we need to begin this funnel of resources is beginning to take shape. And so how we get past this study in the Army Corps' bailiwick, once we get that solidified, then it kind of opens up many opportunities because now we know what we can and can't do. And that's the reference that our city engineer is making, that if we can get past that 1.75.
We've asked, the city's asked for 2.6 million, and yes.
Okay, with 2.6 million, if we can get every Congress member to say that's an important funding designation and get Congress along with the president's folks to say, the Army Corps, get that funded, it literally allows us to move much quicker, and we can actually start talking about where you break the cement strategically, where do you connect with different open space opportunities, like in Griffin Park, like in Taylor Yard, like in the cornfield, and begins to move those that analysis to an implementation stage. So I thought I'd share that with you. And again, this is for the public's consumption because we want them to know that we are making progress.
Who would we say is the most important? Not that everyone's equally important, but is Congress more important in the river than the state Senate, state assembly?
Well, we've been fortunate to get some funding from the state, and to make the substantial changes, we really need the federal government's money. So I would say, as I said in my listening session, I said, we need to be in the president's budget. I was just straightforward and said
That's true.
that we need to be in the
But
president's
we have
budget.
Lucille Roybal Allard, we have Adam Schiff, we have
and
Congressman
Sherman.
Berman and Sherman, so that's four.
And
Jane
the
Harmon.
our two senators have been very supportive in letters
Right.
that they've just sent in for next year's.
Maybe if there's some point in the future, I think it's just important to have a milestone that if we get a very large river rock and with the names of those who have done work to this point, dedicated, it connects them to something. Maybe they can't come, but their deputy could come.
Good.
Like sometime in the fall,
All right.
near the end of the bikeway
Yes.
in Elysian Valley. Or I'm just thinking it's a point where you would have like a trailhead. I only wish we bought that land at Rattlesnake Gates right there. It's I know the realtor's number 323-851-6666, but they don't. They sold it. It's in your district there. You got to go out and buy it there. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll find the money. You just got to push.
There you go.
The other thing I wanted to say, just from this, Gary, to look at this, if you could, the CLA could look at it. But when I thought of everything, there's Quimby money, but do we have a discussion on what is within a half mile or a mile of the river to say, okay, you have a choice, and I don't know what legislation it would take. There's Quimby money, 50% could go to the river. How will you get that money from Quimby to the river? That jumps over maybe a question that you would have. You're the representative. You have a Cypress Recreation Center. Let's just say that. Or I have Griffith Park Rec Center.
Right.
I have a choice. Do I put the money at the Griffith Park Rec Center or at Weddington Park or whatever the case may be? Or could I jump over and get to the river?
Well, I think, Councilman, what the challenge we have is that it's the way the rules are written for Army Corps. They have funds in different projects, but they can't move funding over. And so it's how they've worked
But our money
their
to
silos.
match it, if we could, there's a significant amount of Quimby money from time. It's a slow time now.
Yeah.
Because this weekend, they said, was a very tough weekend where Alan Simpson and another former senator met and gave a very bleak assessment of the future of the United States government and the future of other than our entitlements such as Medicare and all these other things that take place there. That being said, some creative solutions to try to get some match because
we need it.
it's just a thought. But I asked the CLA if you would look at that to see if there's any way you could divide that Quimby within a mile of the river. Does that sound fair? Or a half mile on either side that at least you have a choice
Good strategy.
that you could put part of it.
Goes right
Yeah,
in
we
line
should look
with
into
our
it.
River Improvement Overlay District, which I also talked about that with our federal officials, is how we're reaching out to the community is so important on both sides of the river. And I would be remiss also, the state has been such a great financial partner, and Carol wants to emphasize support letter that we received from them also.
Well, I just wanted to talk about our federal advocacy strategy, and as you know, Congresswoman Roybal Allard has been such a great leader in Washington, hosting the annual LA River Day on the Hill for the last 3 years. And this year, for the first time, we've got a letter of support from 12 state legislators saying how invested they are in the LA River and in the study, the federal study in particular. And I think having that letter when we were there this time had a lot of influence. And so that was great. And also talking to the federal officials when they were here about that LA River Day, they want us to see them when we go next year. So we built up that expectation, and it's a great momentum in just trajectory. But the last thing I want to mention is in May 18th, actually, Senator Feinstein submitted for consideration to the Senate committee for consideration in the next WRDA. There probably will not be a WRDA in 2011, but in the next one, a $120 million contingent construction authorization for the project resulting from our study, which is great. And that means that everybody expects the study to be done and a project to result, and there's already support for it.
Beautiful. Well, with that, I think it's a great transition for discussion from the planning department regarding the Rio. And if we can get some feedback, and I'd love to get some timelines as to when we see it finishing. We have a river corporation who's been biting at the bit and making some progress, and we would love to give them boundaries that allows them to understand where this riverfront district lies. Before I go there, I want to thank Jill Soriel from my office and Lupe Vela as well for the hard work they did this past week in this process, along with the mayor's office. But you'd like to go ahead?
Sure. Good afternoon, Claire Bowen from City Planning. In regards to the LA Rio, we would very much like to see it move forward on the same time frame as you would, I mean, as quick as possible. Unfortunately, I think given a lot of our staff changes, we've been having a lot of shifting around in our department. We currently, Deborah Cahan was working on the Rio in my office, was moved over to Code Studies. And fortunately, Deborah in the Code Studies area will be assigned to continue to look at the Rio. We have some modifications we've been asked to take a look at by the City Attorney's Office, and we're reviewing those modifications now, and hopefully in the fall we'll be able to incorporate those modifications and move it forward to council.
So by the fall?
That is our intention right now. Deborah's been working on some other things, but
Can we put that in writing in the timeline? And not to hold your feet to the fire that close, but it gives me something to work with the transitions occurring in the planning department, and also my encouragement with the deputy mayors and the mayor himself in terms of why this is significant, because it can impact, in my mind, opportunities to positively impact the general fund and how we stimulate our built-out environment. And without that document, it leaves us in limbo.
yeah, no, it's critically important. It's critically important to get it out. And unfortunately, we didn't get the comments back from the city attorney's office until this past spring. And by that time, Deborah had moved on to another department, and we keep shrinking in citywide. But speaking of citywide, I also want to introduce you to Ken Bernstein, I think who's here in the audience. Ken was moved over once when Jane Blumenfeld retired to be in charge of not only citywide policy but also the urban design studio, in addition to his work that he's doing in the Office of Historic Resources. So we do at least have additional people that we're bringing in as well as losing people.
Great.
Yeah.
Just want to ask Mr. Bernstein, what is your favorite bridge over the Los Angeles River?
Okay, you got two districts to deal with
on.
here.
I'll say it's a tie between Glendale, Hyperion, and North Spring Street.
What a diplomat.
He is a diplomat. That's great.
Okay. He's running for office. Okay, now, do you want to do some highlights on the BOE monthly, or should we wait?
I think we've covered the highlight. I just want one more thank you on the whole America Great Outdoors. The mayor was great about his participation, but from his own staff, Acting Deputy Mayor Ramel Pascal and also Deanna Gomez were just outstanding in coordinating these planning
Absolutely.
meetings that we had with everybody from your staff. And I just want to also acknowledge their leadership and energy on this issue also.
I'm glad you did that, because they did work real hard as well. So I appreciate that very much. Okay, so we can approve, note, and file. Have a second?
Very good. And also on the Great Outdoors, to Get to Know, which is our brothers and sisters from north of the 59th parallel Canada. They have a national program to get people to know nature, because I think that's what it's all about. The Great Outdoors, Get to Know. So we could add that too.
We'll take a walk with the councilman rep, Griffith Park, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Item number 2.
Item number 2,
Thank you, folks.
motion relative to authorizing the BOE to enter into a cooperative agreement with the DWP to engage in LA River Revitalization Master Plan implementation efforts.
Okay.
This is a continuing effort in partnership with the Department of Water and Power. This is our third such agreement, and we're looking to continue this partnership. I believe that the DWP has now reached a level of agreement on this, and it can go on to their board, but we need your authorization to move on to this.
So we can move this forward to HCD. they'll review it and get it to council, and then hopefully we'll have all the folks lined up for all the proper agreements and move this forward.
Great.
So we'll move this on from this committee, Councilmember?
Yeah, who owns the water leaving the Tillman plant, entering the river? Who owns the water leaving Glendale, Los Angeles, leaving the river?
My understanding is it belongs to the Department of Water and Power.
Okay, all right, so I think that should be real clear, because one of the things that I've been pushing lately is Betty Davis area, which is out near Griffith Park. It was in the 90s that we did the Los Angeles.
Bike right there at Riverside. Oh,
Right.
no. Yeah, right there at Riverside Drive, right?
In the 90s, we did the Los Angeles Greenbelt project, which was a reclaimed water project. And I'm going to be trying to push to increase reclaimed water, but then that does take away from the river. And that's a big question that we have here, because if we use all the water out of our plants, then the low flows, there's no water going in it. So we have to really come to an agreement. It's a very important point that I want to note, how much we want to for sure have constantly coming out of Tillman. Because let's just say that we convince people that reclaim is good, or let's say with the East Valley water reclamation project or the East Valley well pollution, that they want to pump a lot of water back into the ground, and it will take 10 years to clean it out. We don't know. We still want to constantly have water flows. So it's a very gigantic question that you should have clarification that DWP owns the water, but how we share the water, because there is a belief in that. And if one thing I could absolutely say, and I know Mr. Bernstein is gone right now, but somewhere south of the 6th Street Bridge, there should be a check dam that floods maybe 2 to 5 feet of water, that we could extract the trash out in low flows. I mean, there's a check dam on the river out by Forest Lawn, crosses Burbank and, let's say, Buena Vista, and this is near the entrance. These check dams give us an opportunity to skim plastics and other debris, and I think if we could truly do that sooner than later, there's twofold. One, we clean Long Beach and the Los Angeles ports in a sooner period, and two, we actually give people something to see when they're crossing the bridges, that there's not concrete there, that one day may be transformed, but there's water there that would do there. So those are big things with me, Gary.
Is there a rubber dam near Griffith Park now?
There's a check dam that originally was by DWP engineer and designed it, but it predates.
You own the patent.
Yeah, right there by Forest Lawn. But we should probably try to focus that subject on a simple time, because I think it would be worth it to have a check dam somewhere through the valleys, as well as somewhere down at Washington Boulevard or up in our jurisdiction.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but you really got to clarify, because who knows if Water and Power says, you know what, we want all that water. And then I think recently Mark Gold had a statement that he thinks they should break up Water and Power, which I don't think is feasible. But
Councilor, why don't we work on a motion to
Okay.
get that clarity? So that way we can get it on the record.
or we could do a letter instead of a motion. The motion costs $836. That's what Alex Padilla once told me. So why save the city some money? We'll just do a letter. CLA draft Mr. Reyes is a letter for our signature. How about that? That's done.
$836?
Yeah, something like that.
He's in Sacramento now.
He's in Sacramento now.
Councilmember, the Bureau of Engineering is in part of a committee called the Wiser Committee, which they are meeting on a regular basis to discuss DWP, sanitation, and BOE items, so that could be part of that discussion.
And there's actually been, I know there is a number, and I don't want to misquote it here, about minimal flows that should be maintained in the Los Angeles River, because we've all looked at that. We've had, during the revitalization master plan, there was a lot of comments from the public. Exactly what you said, is making sure that there's a minimal amount of flow to keep the ecosystem going.
Right.
And so your letter, or we'll bring that back up with DWP, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, so we can move this forward to HCD, and that'll be the action of this committee, Councilman?
Very so moved,
Okay.
or so acted, or so whatever.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, we're approving the motion to move forward to council.
Yes.
Approved motion.
Yes. That'll be the action of this committee then. That'll be item number 3.
Item number 3, communication from the CAO relative to the Los Angeles River projects 2010, second status report.
Okay.
Staff.
Hi. Come on down.
Good afternoon, Maria Cardenas with the CAO's Municipal Facilities Division. We recommend approval of amendment number 3 to contract with Tetra Tech for professional services for the LA River Revitalization Master Plan. The amendment extends the contract end date by 3 years from July 2010 to July 2013. The contract ceiling will remain the same. No additional scope has been requested.
Okay, so that's for that extension. So I'd like to move.
So ordered.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Our next item?
Number 4, CRA report relative to Urban Land Institute Advisory Service Panel recommendations for the Clean Tech Corridor.
Okay, so 3 we approved and we noted and filed.
I think number 3 was the CAO administrative report.
Right.
Number 7 is the Tetra Tech contract.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, and so number 3, who is handling the CAO report, the administrative report?
So
Sorry.
can we then state that we heard number 7 out of order then?
Yes,
And
let's
then-
do that.
Okay.
We'll do 3 and 7
Clarify
together.
for the city clerk.
I'd
Okay.
like
Yeah.
to clarify that Lori Hancock, who staffs this, is on vacation, so she shouldn't assign this to me next time. She's one of my staff members.
Okay,
Okay, I'm ready for that report also, though.
okay, so we've acted on number 7. We approved and we move forward to council, and that was the contract with Tetra Tech
Okay.
for the sake of clarity on number 7. So we took care of that. Now we go to number 3, which is the CAO report.
Yes.
Right, we'll see our reports. This is the,
Thank you.
at the request of your committee, our office prepares a status report on the LA River revitalization projects, and it's submitted as an informational item. For fiscal year 2010-11, there are 43 ongoing capital projects totaling approximately $979 million. 25 of those projects are bridges which traverse the LA River and various flood control channels. The other projects include recreational bike paths, parks, water quality projects, riparian system restoration, and implementation of the River Revitalization Master Plan. The estimated expenditure for 2010-11 is $55 million. The report has been reformatted as requested by your committee. It provides informational budgetary item as well as highlights on the current status of the projects. It's based on information prepared by technical advisors from the Bureau of Engineering, Sanitation, Department of Transportation, and DWP. And I know that those project managers are here if you're interested in any specific project.
I think today we will, unless Councilman, you have any questions on any specific project?
No.
I don't at this time, but the new format does lend itself, and I appreciate that, and we will be engaging it a little bit further at another meeting,
Okay.
but not today. But thank you very much.
Is that a note and file number 3?
Note and file number 3.
So now we're back on number 4, which is the CRA report.
Okay, come on down. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Josh Romer. I'm with the CRA for Los Angeles. I work in the downtown and the east side regions. So I'm here today to provide a report on the preliminary findings of the ULI Clean Tech panel. In May 2010, Department of Water and Power and CRA engaged the Urban Land Institute, or the ULI, to assemble a panel of planning, finance, and real estate and economic development professionals. We asked this panel to provide candid, expert advice on strategies for how we can create, nurture, and expand the city's clean tech corridor, which is east of downtown Los Angeles, straddling both sides of the river in mostly industrial areas. We asked the panel to advise on how the city could enhance sustainability in existing industrial uses, but also attract new, more modern, clean tech industrial uses. Attachment A to the transmittal shows the entire scope of our questions for the panel. So on May 21st, the panel provided, after a week's worth of study, some preliminary recommendations. We'll get their final report sometime most likely in September. So highlights, I wanted to give you some of the highlights for those recommendations.
Please.
First, we're very happy the panel basically validated what we've been, the working assumption we've had the whole time, that Los Angeles is very well positioned to attract and expand the clean tech industrial uses in this area east of downtown. The panel also recommended refining basically the strategies that we've already kind of been, the way we've already been kind of approaching this task. First, they suggested focusing on attracting the smaller, more creative, early stage industrial companies to the area rather than perhaps focusing on warehousing and manufacturing and more large-scale industrial uses that are very difficult. So they suggested focusing on incubators, small fabricators, and creative, more like the early stage research and development. And second, we initially started with a clean tech corridor that, as I said, spans both sides of the river and is about 4 miles north to south, from up towards the Cornfield Arroyo Psycho-Specific Plan area down to the city's border at Vernon. And they suggested in their initial recommendations that we should probably highlight more the central and the southern area that focus around the Artisan Residence District. We think there are some interesting reasons for doing so, so we look forward to seeing their final recommendations. Also, most pertinent to the river, I think the panel emphasized a number of planning efforts to improve street infrastructure, river access, connectivity, open space, and parks. Attachment C to the transmittal shows an example. It's basically a very quick sketch, a concept for what they call the innovation station. And this is their idea of what we should be working towards, a mixed-use community in the Clean Tech Corridor that incorporates jobs, housing, commercial services, and open space. And notably, a revitalized river with good connections to this neighborhood is one of the most important amenities I think we have to provide. They were also very strongly supportive of the idea of extending the red line down further into this industrial corridor. So you can kind of see in the sketch for their innovation station.
I mean, down along 4th Street and 6th Street.
Exactly.
You know whose idea that was?
I do.
Very good,
Yours.
Larry. Good job. You get a promotion.
So as I mentioned before, we expect to receive their final recommendations in September. We will take these recommendations to our board as a report, and we will be using these recommendations basically to refine our work program in the Clean Tech Corridor.
Great. Well, thank you. And again, every time we look at the river from different points of view, we see the kind of connectivity that in many other cities they've been successful. So it's a matter of just understanding our strength as a city and approaching this in a methodical fashion. I think this helps us get there. So I really appreciate the insight and the level of work and the articulation that's been defined. Any other comments?
Just two things. One, long-term, on the river is transmission lines, which are very important to the city. Very expensive to underground, you know, looking at all that. Because not only just a clean tech tour, a clean tech view, I think if that's the right way to say it. I once had someone visiting from Germany who had a horrible past in the terrible World War II period, etc. But it's absolutely amazing what their planners had done in the post-war rebuilding, where all utilities were underground, except for farm roads, basically. But, you know, people are still amazed that we have these wires sticking up out of the sky. I think that would be a big challenge to look at that, because much of both sides of the river, especially to the downtown heart, are heavy transmission, which is real important, but at the same time, it's a concept to look at. And then the rail lines are very, very, very big. And probably no one here knows the name of Mike McKelvey, but he was the Board of Secretary of Public Works, a real Irish guy, and this is like 35 years ago. He says, Tommy, if you think you have trouble fighting City Hall, try to fight the railroads. And the railroads see that they have thousands of cities along their right-of-ways from Chicago to LA or wherever. And so that impact is very big. We've got to get cooperation and to figure out how we can win, because they got the upper hand since 1860 or whenever the spike was nailed in the Promontory Point. But I think we have to look at that and, you know, and try to get cooperation, because those are two big things that are going to have our accessibility downtown so true. And I said this, I haven't said this at the meeting, but I told you I publicly went, no, not publicly, I went by myself, but if that's publicly.
In the public.
Yeah, I rode my bicycle one Sunday, and I rode from Griffith Park down to Figueroa into the new area of the bike path. Mr. Chandler, we were on the dirt area of the bike path when we weren't supposed to be there about a year ago. But I was amazed at the number of families that were walking on the banks of the river. I was amazed at the number of people fishing, riding, etc. And this is the first part of the river, other than parts in the valley, which sometimes have had resistance because they've looked at it as the valley channel is different than the Los Angeles River that we know in Elysian Park and Atwater Village. That all being said, it brought life to people and a place to be. It really transformed it. Right. So there's a lot of good things that were happening that we could do, but those two big things, as we look at this, is transmission and railroads. And also, too, from a railroad standpoint, too, whatever their view is, it is nice to see the river if it's nice to look at. And that particular part of the river is very nice to look at from the railroad as you rode.
Not
right
after
up.
the rains.
Yeah, right, except for the rains.
Okay. Actually, the legalities of that pathway we started dealing with in 1992.
Right.
It's taken us
Right,
that long.
yeah.
Okay, so I appreciate everything you've done. Look forward to using that study and, again, building up on the momentum that we have going. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and that we can move on from this committee over to HCD.
As a note and file? as
Note
well?
and file, yes.
Okay.
All right. Our next item.
Item number 5, communication from LA River Realization Corporation relative to progress update and request for ongoing support.
Mr. Chandler, please identify yourself.
Greetings. It's Harry Chandler, Chair of the LA River Revitalization Committee. Good afternoon, Councilman.
Good afternoon,
Members.
sir. Welcome.
Thank you. So I've got a brief update on our activities for both of you. We're continuing to gain momentum and put plans together and attack the many opportunities that exist on the river. In particular, we're just a few weeks away from the final adoption of the management service and funding agreement that we have with the CRA, which will then release the funds that the City Council has put aside for us, which will give us about a year to year and a half of operational funding. We've got a number of projects lined up to make use of some of those funds. At my last briefing here, I talked about the LA River Internet project that we're going to be undertaking. That's all teed up, waiting to go. We've started as a board to look at options for bringing some full-time staff aboard, including an executive director and/or consultants. So our hope is that later this summer we can get specific about that.
Great.
And the real estate committee in our group continues to sort of dig into the specifics of the various parts of the river that each has each covers. And I've got a proposal, I think, for the two of you, that because I know last time you wanted some more detail, and it's a challenge to talk about real estate opportunities in a public forum. So
Right.
I thought it might be an opportunity to sort of set up a series of meetings with the council members in their districts, bring the real estate people that have jurisdiction for that together in a
Great.
more private meeting, and really take you through some of the things and talk about how we can really make some progress with that.
I think that's significant, Mr. Chandler. It's almost like we are establishing a not only a protocol but a sense of culture and how we want to work with all the stakeholders in an area so that you get all the support you need to get to those victories.
Right.
So I think that's a very strategic move on your part.
My goal is also to reach out to the supervisors and really make this a bilateral
Right.
support, so that we're,
They would love that.
yeah.
That's excellent.
So in a few weeks, we'll get back to your offices
Okay.
with some ideas for those meetings.
And well, I appreciate your tenacity and your patience. I know sometimes we don't move as quick as we would like to see, but I think in the end we'll end up with a better product. But thank you very much.
Good.
Any questions for Mr.
Would it be nice to list, because you just mentioned about the supervisors, in some form, the governance, I mean, just the honorary, you make them honorary chairs or something. Zeb's very pro-river, did a lot of work on Tujunga. In fact, I think more on Tujunga than he did on the river through the East Valley, only because I think they had total control. They didn't have to work with anybody else. But it would be nice to list these people along with the city representatives in the state. Maybe we could do that in some form to focus. I just think it helps people know this is another, the next time there's a citywide race, I think the river should be a bigger argument so that you get people to really talk about it and say what they're going to do for it, because this is a topic that is so key. So I just think somehow to get that, I just think
Absolutely.
adds that. So if you put that, Harry.
We can
Thanks.
put that on our lariver.org website.
Yes.
We'll have that lined up in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second thing I just wanted to throw out is, as a new organization, we've got sort of headway for about a year and a half from the funding that we've received.
Mm-hmm.
So a top priority for me as the chair is to figure out how to supplement that with call it $700,000 per annum ongoing, which is really pays for the consultants and the staff and the operation, and then look for much larger sort of federal state money for the land acquisition that we envision. So one of the topics is, how do we, what are the best ways to look for, whether it's general funds or working with other agencies where there might be some pots, but looking for both of your recommendations for how in the next few months we can push ourselves onto the budgets for 211.
And again, those are, I think, excellent opportunities if we learn how to leverage each other's skill sets and move forward in these very strategic places. And I know every council office has their set of priorities. So how we work with funding sources would be the next step that we want to continue to develop with you. And I'm looking forward to that. And at that time, I think we could talk about the intricacies of how funding comes to a specific proposal. As you stated, that becomes a very delicate conversation when you're dealing with these types of complicated transactions.
Simultaneously, we're looking at, with CRA's help, some PFARs and some other mechanisms that can pull money out of the properties itself.
Exactly.
River, so.
Exactly.
Mr. Chandler, have you ever seen this report?
Don't believe I have.
Has anyone ever seen this report in here? All right, and what agency are you with? Oh, good job. Kamsahamnida. Thank you. Okay, it's a CRA report. Have you seen it, Ed?
Yes.
Yeah. We should make sure, because it does call it the Los Angeles Study Area.
Yep.
And they just came out with this, I think in the last 4 weeks or 6 weeks. Let me give you one here. But I think that shows that the agency is looking. I know they're not here to speak to that right today, but you're focusing on the area from what would be the Glendale connection up by the zoo all the way through the central part of the district, which is a big effort by you and Mr. Garcetti to focus on the area of the corridor, but not to, I use this term, to alarm people in Elysian Valley, which previously got alarmed when they thought the city was coming through.
Right.
Because the CRA had a real bad name then. They still got a name, but they don't have a real bad name like they had before. Look at that. Is that right, Don? That's right. It did. I mean, they do have done things more.
Hey, Don, come on up. Mr. Spivak,
Yeah.
come on up. Because
I think that scared a lot of people, Harry. When
How
they
long
say-
ago was this?
I think it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
1994.
But people remember, they do remember, because I even talked to someone about it.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge Mr. Spivak of the CRA and to thank him for his stewardship in working with the Revitalization Corporation. When you talk about the ultimate toolbox, the CRA has been tremendous in reestablishing and focusing and allowing for the kind of possibilities that are being discussed in the goals of the corporation. Anything you wanted to add, Mr. Spivak? Because the audience want to acknowledge you and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Councilman. The River Master Plan itself did call for the creation of the River Revitalization Corporation as the development arm of all of the efforts to be taking place. And when the council authorized the implementation of the master plan, they directed CRA to take the lead in forming the corporation. We're very pleased that we have made the progress in getting the corporation established. We're providing some initial seed funding and looking forward to its becoming more and more operational.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Spivak. Any questions?
Oh, yeah. How many of those brochures you have?
I'll have to check for you. I'm sure there's at least a couple hundred of them.
Yeah, I think some of the people in this room would certainly like to see that, to be aware of it. So maybe you could bring something to the next meeting. We can get you back at the next meeting, little thing. That'd be good.
Mr. Spivak is always there, so thank you, sir. Appreciate for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, so we can move this on. And so I want to make sure that we approve a direction to CRA to verify all proper documentation for public funds.
Okay.
And so that gets us to number 6.
Number 6, DDP quarterly report relative to work performed to maintain department's right-of-ways along the river.
Okay. So all these grand landscaping plans are emerging?
They're
Just
slowly
kidding.
emerging. Nick Demas, Department of Water and Power.
Yeah.
I'm here just to report on the cleanup, the quarterly cleanup along the Los Angeles River that was performed from April 23rd to April 28th, 2010. And it was delayed a little bit because we had some down towers, so it's supposed to be done in March. And so we submitted this letter to you.
So do we see ongoing support in terms of creating the environments we're trying to seek in this process?
Yes, we've been meeting with Lupe, and we had one meeting canceled last month. We have another one scheduled in July to try to determine exactly where you want to concentrate our efforts.
Right. And I know our council president at one time wanted to get some feedback and performance in some of the right-of-ways that Department of Water and Power controls. Did we take care of that? Would you like to?
We've had very good response.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No.
Any questions for Department of Water and Power, Councilmember?
Sunny Nook Park. Sunny Nook Park is between the Hyperion Bridge and Sunny Nook Bridge. You familiar with that at all?
Yes, we worked on the plans.
Right. And how much you want to charge us? You have an underground easement there that we're building a park. Have we resolved that matter?
I'm not aware.
Mary, do you know? Okay, because there was a cost. Yeah, they're making the park there. They want to charge the city the use of the park, use of your property. When basically we're going to take away the maintenance from you. Carol, Dr. Armstrong, please testify here.
Doctor.
All right. How are we doing on this project?
Carol Armstrong, Bureau of Engineering. It's my understanding that the latest on this is the cost has been settled, but the terms of the agreement. DWP wants to only have a 10-year agreement, but we're not sure that's enough for our state funders because generally state parks have to be, a park according to state funding has to be dedicated for at least 25 years. So we may have to change that. We've asked our state funders to get back to us and we haven't heard yet. But we're anticipating that's going to need to be
Could we
changed.
request that, because this is a parcel of land underneath the transmission, which will always be there, and right now it's on a bluff that's never going to be part of the state highway system. It's blocked by any expansion because the Hyperion Bridge would be ideal. It'd make the Department of Water and Power look good and make people feel proud of water and power. So it's a great opportunity.
All I know is what the agreement was that we sent over for sign-in, they sent to Rec and Parks, was for 10 years. And I think we asked for them to follow up with the state and find out if it was required for longer term. We did not hear anything back, so we sent that agreement, and it was with Rec and Parks last night.
You want to report back?
Oh, yeah, if they could, because I don't want to get that hung up. And all these state projects are being greatly scrutinized because of the cuts in our ability to do work, that we don't want to miss this opportunity. So, and if we need to go to your commission to get the extra 20 years, let's do it, because it's a very worthy cause. You'd be proud of it.
Okay. Will I work with Carol, or will I work with Larry?
Work with Carol first, because I see Carol right now. So
Okay.
you're in charge, Carol.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will report back.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. See, those are Dr. Armstrong, emergency there?
Mr. Chairman, that's a note and file on this with the report back additionally.
Yes, on that specific item.
Okay. That takes you to
Gave it to Don.
It's Sunny Nook.
item number 8.
Yeah.
Okay, so we took care of number 7.
Yeah.
And our last item, and then we'll open up for public comment. We do have one card. We have one more item. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Item number 8, presentation by the Los Angeles Conservation Corps, Los Angeles River Keepers relative to ongoing river maintenance efforts in the Glendale Narrows segment of the river.
Please identify yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Yasmin Mero Corona with the Los Angeles Conservation Corps. The project coordinator for the River Keepers and the Ambassadors. I'm flying solo today. Bruce just called me. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it to the meeting today. I'd just like to thank you, first of all, for giving our youth this opportunity to learn about the river and have an opportunity to clean it and make it a better place for everyone. This provided job training to our youth. So year to date, I'd just like to share that our River Keepers are currently a group of 9 river keepers out. We kind of fluctuate from 5 to 9, and we currently this summer just added 6 more junior river keepers, which we're calling them because it's through our SYEP program, that are out in the river and actually we're teaching them about the river and actually doing maintenance.
And that's Summer Youth Employment Program.
Yes,
That's YEP.
correctly. So we added
Okay.
6 with us, so they're out with us, kind of shadowing our river keepers.
Good.
We also have our river ambassadors, which are 2 bicycle crews, which are providing public relations throughout the river, going back and forth on a daily basis, 5 days out of the week. And like Councilmember Tom LaBonge said, has been an increase once the asphalt came into that road, the bike path there, increase of pedestrians and bike traffic throughout that area. And we've gotten an opportunity to pass out brochures on bike safety and also the revitalization plan that's going on there. So it's been a plus, that whole effort.
There hasn't been a public grand opening of that bike path yet, right? It's being...
No.
September, October? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So just a little updates on just of what we've done so far from January on to the end of the month of June. We've collected 4,576 bags of trash, approximately 165,593 pounds of trash been disposed. That's including bulky items. We've cleaned and maintained approximately 51,785 square feet of the river and the river bed. That's removing trash, any sort of trash, plastic in the riverbed, and also removing invasive plants and along the river bike path. We've removed approximately 25,832 square feet of graffiti. We did see an increase of the graffiti being put on the asphalt, which we're now currently removing with black paint on there. It just made it a nice location for them to, because it stands out. But I think we kind of have it a handle because there's more people out there.
Good.
And then we have conducted 6 LA River presentations to about 73 individuals. We're concentrating more on the youth, just letting them know that it is a river, and it's not like a dumping ground, because a lot of kids inner city kids never visited the river. Or they know it's there, but some do, some don't. So it's just an opportunity to allow them to increase their knowledge about the river and possibly bring them out to the location. Our future for a river, well, now that it's been dedicated a navigational river, and it'll be, it'll allow it to create more entertainment for families in the area. We're looking forward to possibly more funding, whether it be a partnership with private companies and stuff, and increasing more of the programs like ours throughout the river, extending it further up, either to Long Beach or up to Calabasas. And speaking about funding, I'd like to introduce Samantha Martinez. She's actually one of the funders that the rivers were awarded some money, and they're the American Chemical Council.
Come on down, Samantha.
Explain a little.
This is what... well, see, everyone gets to wear dancing shoes every once in a while. So the American Council has...
The American Chemistry Council, and I'm sorry that Sherry McCarthy, who's really been involved, couldn't be here, but she's at home with her 1-month-old son.
Congratulations.
But, yes, he's super cute. But I represent the Plastic Food Service Packaging Group, which is a part of the American Chemistry Council. And we're just so thrilled to be a supporter and to be part of this program because, A, part of the products that we make end up in the river as litter, among other types of trash and litter. So we want to be part of the solution cleaning up and making sure that folks understand about recycling. But we're also so excited about the work that the river keepers are doing, educating the students, but also the members of their crew are really exceptional, and the experience that they're getting in terms of presentations and understanding of native plants versus invasive, and the birds and the wildlife and the fish in the river is just really exciting. And I think that a lot of them are going to go on to really remarkable things. And so thank you, your office, for helping us connect with them, but also the LA Conservation Corps has really been great.
And it's a joint effort with Councilman Labange's help and Councilman Garcetti and everyone else involved. So I appreciate your presence and the financial resource that these kids, they have summer jobs because of your presence, and they are part of the total package. And so you played a tremendous role there. I think the Audubon Center did a brochure of all the different wildlife and birds that are in the river corridor. We got to get that out to you guys, because we should start doing pop quizzes, Tom. Like, how many birds are in the river? Oh, you got it? How many birds do we have in that river? I mean, it blows some people away. It's just how rich this place is.
Because the water's cleaner. Before the water was clean, there was nobody.
But as you can see, there's a lot of birds in there, and they got this beautiful gray heron and an egret that's out there. There's a whole, I guess, flock. I'm not sure what you call it. But thank you so much for your hard work. Thank the youth, and hopefully we can expand this, like you said, and hopefully the people that are hearing us today, if not those who want to learn more, can find ways to really make a difference for our young kids' lives and give them an option. So
I just want to thank Samantha and the. How many chemicals are in water?
H2O. So, oh God, I'm going to be embarrassed.
Yeah, but there's a lot of chemicals in water, meaning we should not be scared. There are chemicals in our bodies.
Gotcha.
But the word chemical scares us, when they say chemical. So I think it's very important. This is very poignant, the information that you give. I was just thinking, because I love the Corps and what it does. What is the name of, do you have a preference on the name of the new high school on San Fernando Road yet?
Not yet.
Maybe Rio High, I don't know, and there'll be the River Keepers as their mascot.
That's
R-I-O
High, right?
What?
R-I-O High, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I got it. I mean, I'm just kicking it out, but I think there's a real connection for the Corps. I saw a fabulous documentary on the CCCs in the 30s and what it did to America, what it did to integration, what it did to bringing people together from all economic backgrounds. And if we could push the Corps in the possible way, obviously with funding, to more venues so they could be there, and that new school should have a connection to their educational variety to the river,
right.
And what it's all about. It's just an ideal opportunity to look for. And then,
Now, there's real designs to expand how we deal with some of the state land. The issue is always overcoming that rail barrier,
right.
That rail track, but there are some urban design elements out there that does that physically. But you're talking about social and environmental and academic programming, and it's
right.
an excellent opportunity. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, but I'm just proud of the Corps.
Great.
Selvin Delacruz. Did you work with Selvin at all?
With who?
Selvin Delacruz. He's an alumni.
Sylvan,
yeah,
yes,
Sylvan.
you,
You like him, Sylvan? I'll call him Sylvan.
Right.
Yes.
It's all the same person.
Yeah. No,
All
but
right.
I just think it's just positive, and then just to do that.
Big time.
When's our River Days? Did we pick the River Day yet? I know we got the cleanup, which we do every May, but we should probably around the.
We had an annual River Day in 94, 95.
Yeah.
No, I mean, 2004 and 5, and then it's.
Right.
Maybe we should pick one, and maybe it should be in the fall, because the fall before the first rains are the absolute most pristine moments as the river really rebuilds. So maybe we could collectively, with the foundation, with the Friends, with your committee, Ed, and with the Corps, have a River Day, and just see what attention that it brings to us.
We'll do it again.
When's Mitch? When's the bikeway opening?
Hopefully September. No set date because the LED lights are scheduled to arrive by July 29th. And they have to install and
Maybe once that's installed, we dedicate it, have it. Yeah, okay.
That'd be good. All right, so that on that item, we could essentially note and file on number 8. Thank you so much for your hard work. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
And we do have public comment, and we have Mr. McAdams.
Mr. Chair, before the public comment, just for the record, for item number 6, we're continuing item number 6 with a report back from DWP and BOE on the Sunny Nook Park.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
And, one thing, Mr. Chair, before you do a public comment, I had to make a regretful decision based on the interest of the city. A very needed but massive public works project known as the River Supply Conduit's coming through Griffith Park. in order to finish that project before, I asked Water and Power that if they could get it done sooner, they could keep working through the moratorium period. Moratorium period's during the holiday time. What that does is it cancels the Light Festival.
Yep.
And this is for anyone who's under my voice. If you have an idea where we could do a Light Festival that takes parking, that they're not necessarily driving, come up with it, because Water and Power still is committed to the project, but realize how important it is to get the massive, if you want to look at a massive public works project, go over to the little trains in Griffith Park. They're doing a tremendous job, but it is impacting, so I throw that out.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. McAdams, come on down. Public comment. Come to the microphone.
I just wanted to, Elizabeth,
Welcome, sir.
I just wanted to announce that with absolutely no funding from the city or the CRA or anybody else, Friends of the Los Angeles River put together a committee of elite underemployed architects, landscape architects, planners, and designers.
But elite.
Including Perkins and Will, Michael Maltz and Associates, Chi and Salette, Mielera and Associates, all working for 8 months for free to create a vision for the post-industrial piggyback yard, sometimes called the Los Angeles Transportation Center, which is 125 acres across the river, directly across the river from Union Station. The plans, which are once the railroad is gone, and I must say the UP was very cooperative in being part of this project, but to the extent of being very polite to say no to everything.
So they're not leaving.
They ain't moving this year, but they will move. And one of the understanding that we could not wave a magic wand and this acreage becomes part of a vast regional park, et cetera. We have created a really great website which will go up on Friday at piggybackyard.org. You can get it directly or through the FOLAR site. And it lays out, it's a wonderful site, it lays out all the issues, all the opportunities, all the drawbacks, and lays out all the plans that have been created to look at this yard. And I would urge everybody to check a look at piggybackyard.org coming Friday.
Thank you, Mr. McAdams. I remember there was different scenarios during the baseball stadium discussion, the football stadium discussion. So, have such a big piece of real estate in a strategic location. We have to think out of the box. So, thank you for that.
Oh yeah, it's the largest single-owned piece of property that we'll ever see in the central city.
Right. So thank you for your hard work and all the elite architects and engineers and landscape folks for their hard work. Anything else, Councilmember?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for your patience and your cooperation. Have a great evening.
If you think there's something in your district, the nice thing about the road in Griffith Park was where they need a mile. And then they need a place to park all the cars.
Oh, yeah. So,
Maybe it could be at the corner.
note and file, approved. Note and file, approved, continued, approved.